as I mentioned, we look at the Philippines in these sort of 4 chunks. The 3 main ones being Luzon, Mindoro, and that's very much accessed through Manila. Then there's Palawan and Tuba-Tahar, which is either accessed through Puerto Princesa or Busuanga Airport. And then there's Cebu and the Visayas more widely in the middle. Generally, you're getting there through Cebu International Airport, or Mactan as it's known. So I'm just going to run through those different areas, give a few of the highlights and sort of few insights about the dive destinations within each of those spots. So starting in the north with Luzon and Mindoro, I think one of the more famous dive destinations up here in the north will be Anilao. It is a fantastic little peninsula that you can get to very easily from Manila. It's just a 2.5-hour transfer south. And once you get to the Anilao Peninsula, you're getting access to some really, really fun critter diving. I wouldn't really call it muck diving there because I don't feel the reefs are kind of resembling the style of Lembeh, which in Indonesia, which kind of spawned muck diving. It is just more very, very high quality macro diving, a lot of variety of marine life, a lot of unique critters that you can see down there. It is a year-round destination, but the cooler temperatures of between October and May in terms of the water adds to that marine life coming up from the depths a little bit. So we'd consider that to be the best time. Resorts are the best way to experience it. They're all scattered and wrapped around the peninsula. All the dive guides there are all incredible, incredibly knowledgeable. It's a bit of a haven for underwater photographers as well. Diving wise, it's very easy and relaxed there. So beginners and up, in our opinion, but not really so good for families and snorkelers. There aren't that many reefs to be snorkeling on. There's not that many other activities for people to be doing. So very much a little kind of diver's haven, especially for critter lovers and keen photographers. However, just a bit further south of Anilao is Puerto Galera. Puerto Galera is a similar route to get to in terms of Anilao, except after the 2-hour drive, there'll be about an hour-long transfer by boat over the strait there. The great thing about Puerto Galera is it's got a lot more diversity of marine life and dive environments. So a bit more of a complete package as a destination, in my opinion. There is still the really good muck and critters that you can see in Anilao, but the reefs are better. There's also some really nice wrecks, and there's just generally a bit more fish stock. So yeah, a really enjoyable place. Similar season to Anilao, being year round, but a bit kind of better October to May in our opinion. And there's a lot of beautiful resorts along there. We've got some great partners such as Atlantis, which have some really good dive packages and offers on, especially for families at the moment. Diving wise, very much beginners and up. There are some that are a bit more advanced, a bit more current, but a really, really easy place to visit. And I would say it is good for snorkelers and families around Puerto Galera. You've got some nice beaches. There are some nice reefs to snorkel on, some fun day trips to do. So that variety, makes it a really good destination that's very, very accessible from Manila Airport without needing to do further domestic flights as well. And the final destination to mention in the Luzon Mindoro area is Apo Reef. Apo Reef, if I sort of hop back to that map, is just out in the bottom corner of that orange encircled area. It's a more remote seamount, so it is only accessible by liveaboards. But with that remoteness comes a lot of excitement. There's some great wall diving, drift diving, great opportunity for a lot of pelagics and even hammerheads potential between November to March. So it's only accessible by liveaboard because there's a bit of travel to get out there. And we'd say the diving is definitely advanced plus. It is available year round, but the liveaboards are only really heading there between October and May in our experience. And because it's liveaboard trips only, so just on boats that you stay on and then dive off, it isn't good for snorkelers and families, as there's just nothing for them to do, unfortunately. And in terms of getting there, you can either be accessing it with trips heading out of Manila, or sometimes liveaboards will be heading out of Coron further south. So there is a bit of a variety of ways to access Apo Reef. But a little bit of a less known destination in the Philippines, that sort of rivals the more famous Tuba Tahars of the country. If we then head further south from Apo Reef, we're then heading into the region of Palawan and Tuba Tahar. I'm just going to mention Tuba Tahar and Coron specifically as destinations of interest. El Nido is very famous because of the different landscapes and beauty that it has there. Lots of lovely resorts to go stay at, but the diving really isn't too much to write home about. We do book a lot of combination trips where people stay a bit of time in kind of a good dive area and then go to another part of the Philippines to enjoy the natural beauty in a different way. So if that's of interest, we can definitely help with it. But from a diving perspective, you're not really going to be filling your logbook so much. But you'll be making a lot of memories above the water there as well, because it is beautiful. Coron, however, so in that sort of northern region, Coron is famous ultimately for the wrecks. That is where the vast amount of it's the Japanese fleet was sunk. So there's a huge variety of wrecks there, and I've just had a friend who's come back from there again and just is raving about how much fun it is exploring them. The guides around Coron are incredible. They know all of the sites inside out, so good at helping doing a bit of penetration into some of the wrecks if that's of interest. They also know a lot about the different history of each of the ones, so they really help bring the whole experience to light when you're there. Very much a year-round destination again, but December to March would probably be our recommendation. It is a good region for beginners, but if you're wanting to get access to a lot more of the wrecks, then you are definitely wanting to be more advanced and above. Liveaboards do occasionally run itineraries through here, but I'd say staying at resorts is the best way to make the most of it. Just because you've got the dive guides there that are being there all the time, so they know it a lot more intimately and can give you guys a great experience because of that additional knowledge. So yeah, I'd always be suggesting resorts. It is a lovely area for families and snorkelers as well. The landscape's incredible with all of the limestone karst hills. So going off on kayak trips or visiting nearby lagoons for snorkeling. A lot of different flora and fauna to experience there. So yeah, really fun destination. There is the potential for dugongs, but they're on the northern side of the Coron region. So you'd be looking at slightly different resorts away from the wrecks. But if there's anyone looking for that, again, we're very happy to help with some guidance. And then further south, heading to Tuba Tahar, which we kind of include in that region. That's mainly because you can only get to Tuba Tahar, which is this, sort of remote seamount by liveaboard, and you get there by starting in and out of Puerto Princesa. It's a kind of fairly small town, some good hotels to overnight on before a liveaboard heading out to Tuba Tahar. And very much worth the trip in terms of highlights there. You've got the whale sharks, manta rays, you get big pelagics coming through, lots of schooling reefs, great, beautiful reefs as well. So the diving is very much advanced just because of the exposure and the additional currents that you get out there. But one of the kind of more exciting liveaboard itineraries, especially in Asia. It's almost like a little mini Galapagos in a way. As mentioned a number of times, the season there is very short due to its sensitivity to sea conditions. So March to June being the time trips run. And again, I'd be looking more towards the start of the season than the end. So heading sort of east a bit, so northeast, we'll head up towards Cebu and the Visayas, which is my favorite area within the Philippines. It is probably the most established from a diving and tourism perspective. There's a lot of opportunity to be had here, and variety of destination as well. For the most part, you'll be flying into Cebu, or kind of Mactan Airport as it's known, and then we can arrange the various transfer routes to get to the destinations such as Malapascua, Mobile, and so on. The other very special spot of Darwin, you can get a short internal domestic flight from Cebu to Dumaguete, and then a car transfer down, or a flight directly from Manila domestically as well. But yeah, very special area. So the other interesting thing I've found in this region is that all of the destinations, although famous by name themselves potentially, such as Mobile, Panglao, Darwin, Malapascua, what they all kind of have in common a little bit is they've all got a island of their own just off the coast, which adds to the diving experience there. So Mobile has Pescador Island just off the coast. Panglao has Balakazag with its beautiful reefs. Darwin also has Apo Island with its beautiful reefs, which makes for a great day trip. And then Malapascua has a variety of them. It's got a couple of underwater seamounts nearby where you get the tiger sharks and thresher sharks. And then also this rocky outcrop called Gato Island, which has got some really cool underwater structures, a fun swim through underneath the island where there's a family of white-tip sharks. So all of these destinations have these nearby islands, which you really want to be making sure you do as part of a day trip from a diving perspective when you're there. Just seen a notification of a chat, so I'll just So I've got a chat question around if you're looking for choice between liveaboard on Tuba Tahar or Raja. So this would be Raja Ampat in Indonesia. Tuba Tahar is actually really would be more of an exhilarating liveaboard from a diving perspective, and you're going to get more of the big stuff. You are going to get the whale sharks, manta rays, some big reef sharks, maybe even some more pelagic sharks there, a lot more big kind of like tunas and schooling fish, silvery fish, I guess, if we bracketed them in that way. Raja is obviously an incredible destination to visit in Indonesia. You've got a huge amount of biodiversity there, a lot more coral species, a lot more fish stock. You will get the manta rays, but you're not really going to get the whale sharks. You're not really going to get any large shark species. You will get kind of wobbegongs, maybe more some epaulet sharks. So it's a little bit, they're very different. Also, Tuba Tahar being kind of remote seamounts, you're not getting much sort of landscape to be enjoying, whereas Raja has got all of that beauty also with its sort of limestone cast hills that you're exploring around. So I'd sort of be heading to Raja for the biodiversity, the huge amount of fish stock, the huge amount of color, and the beauty of the landscape. And I'd be heading to Tuba Tahar for some exhilarating diving with, you know, some really big marine life, would be my thoughts on that. Great. So back to the Visayas. Yeah, Malapascua is one of my favorite destinations in the Philippines, year round again, but arguably best December to April. And ultimately it's become kind of very, very famous because of the thresher sharks that you see there. The thresher sharks you can see are at recreational diving depth, so that's pretty rare in the world. So it makes it very unique. You can see them here. They used to be seen on an underwater seamount called Monad Shoal, but what's happened now, some tiger sharks have turned up, which isn't a bad thing. They're now on Monad Shoal, and the threshers have moved to a nearby seamount called Kinnard Shoal. So it's still possible to see, but now you might have an extra shark species to contend with, which is no bad thing. Around Malaspina itself, there's some lovely reefs, great macro. You've also got the fun Gatto Island nearby, which is great for its underwater structures and also this swim through. In terms of where to stay on Malaspina, there's lots of lovely resorts. I've always got a soft spot for places like Evolution Dive Resort, also Ocean Vida. There are liveaboards that do Visaya's itineraries and include Malaspina, but if you're really wanting to get some good thresher shark experiences, I think it's worth spending a bit more time and actually staying on the island itself. Diving level-wise, very much beginners and above, but through the thresher shark sites, it's good to have your advanced. I feel it's a good destination for snorkelers and families. It's lovely beaches, some nice snorkeling. It's a really fun island to stay on. So yeah, a really good spot. To get there, you're arriving at Cebu International. We would then do about a 3.5 hour car transfer from Cebu up to Maya Port, and then we would organize a boat transfer out to the islands. I can see a question about the travel, so I'll do that after covering Mobile, which is the next one. So yeah, Mobile is on the west coast of the long Cebu island. If I pop back to the map, you can see Mobile sort of southwest of Cebu Mactan. Mobile has become quite famous because of the massive sardine school that is there. It used to be living on Pescador Island, just off the coast, but the school's now moved on to the main coastline, just outside of Mobile town in a way. Really fun to dive amongst, really fun to snorkel amongst. You occasionally, if you're lucky, get thresher sharks coming in and hunting the sardines using their big whip tail kind of to stun them. Excuse me. But there's really good reefs along the coastline there, lots of turtles, lots of fun macro. It's very easy, relaxed diving, not too much current, so great for beginners. Lots of fun resorts scattered along that coastline. And it's quite easy to access the different resorts and restaurants that are there as well. So just a very easy going destination. One concern we have seen is due to the recent typhoon, there was a bit of damage caused to the top reef in Pescador, but that will recover quickly because it is a very diverse area. In terms of getting there, it's a kind of 2.5 hour car transfer back and forth from Cebu. I saw a question around traveling between Mobile and Malaspina. The route I had done is we actually drove from Mobile up the west side of Cebu Island and then cut in at the top to get to Maya Port and then take the boat out to Malaspina. That's quite a long trip. There are resorts that will offer the private transfer between the two destinations, which does help in terms of saving a little bit of time. But alternatively, you can just go from Mobile back over to Cebu and then go from Cebu up towards Malaspina on, either more group organized routes, if there are sort of resorts putting on group transfers, or or using public buses and things as well to keep the cost down. Hopefully that helps, Catherine. But I do think the private taxi makes life quite easy and does add a bit of extra cost, but not too much in the big scheme of things. Hopefully you haven't been overcharged too much. But yeah, if you're looking to save a bit on budget, I'd just do a normal transfer back to Cebu and then head up to Malapascua. Yes. Yeah, that sounds about right. The public buses, sorry, because in the chat, Catherine mentioning the difference between it being about a 3.5 hour taxi versus an 8 hour public bus. The public buses aren't bad, and you can just, sort of crash out and travel along. The problem is they stop so regularly, and they then also will stop for like a lunch break or a dinner break or something. So it just seems to take forever, whereas a taxi will just, they'll put their heads down and drive, which is good. So after Mobile, if you go a bit further south, there's a really other special place, Dumaguete and Darwin. Dumaguete, Darwin, it's a really nice volcanic coastline there. So you get this beautiful black sand. There's some really good little reef outcrops along that coastline. But what it's really special for are the critters. You get a huge variety of kind of macro and bizarre marine life there. I think it's April, May, or March, April, May is a really good time for frogfish. You get a huge variety of frogfish species appearing. A lot laying eggs and all sorts. You get some really fun access to different behaviors and lifestyles of frogfish then. Into October, November, with the slightly kind of colder upwellings, you get a lot of the cephalopods coming out to have a party. So you're getting huge variety of kind of octopus species. You'll get crazy cuttlefish as well, such as this flamboyant cuttlefish here. So really, really fun as a destination, great for photographers as well. And then you have the nearby Apo Island, which has got beautiful reefs. So great for diving, but also for snorkelers as well. Resorts is the best way to experience it here. You've got places like Atlantis, Dumaguete, which are really well catered for divers. There's Atmosphere Resort just down the road that's also as luxurious, but maybe a little bit more family orientated or just a little bit more focused on the relaxed diver rather than the sort of hardcore one. And then there's some really nice boutique, more affordable places around there as well. I think it's a lovely coastline for snorkelers and families. There's a lot of land activities you can do, kind of ATV rides, kind of waterfall visits, mountain biking. So yeah, a lot of fun to be had in Dumaguete and Darwin. Highly recommend it. I've been many times and always enjoy it. And then the final destination I'd recommend is Bohol. Within that, there's sort of Panglao in the southwest and Anda in the southeast. Generally, the diving is along the southern coast of Bohol. It's pretty good. There's some nice reefs. The macro's okay. There's a few good little islands that have got some lovely reefs. There's a pretty unique seamount that's home to a lot of sea snakes, which is quite fun. But the diving, I don't think rivals the likes of Malapascua and Darwin. The good thing about Bohol is its land-based activities are the best out of everywhere. You've got the kind of famous chocolate hills, which are beautiful to see. You've got some great jungle trekking to do, some nice river cruises, lots of waterfalls again. So a lot of variety there in Bohol. So it is good for family, but maybe not really the sort of top diving spot to be considering. And then the final one to mention is Mindanao briefly. So Mindanao is the southern area. A lot of governments will have some form of travel advice against traveling to Mindanao. So it's quite hard for me to say too much on that. But there are a couple of destinations accessible in the north where you don't really travel into Mindanao proper. where there are any concerns or dangers to be faced. They're a lot further south. Somewhere like Siargao is somewhere I'm always keen to mention. Not a dive spot per se, but it is a very beautiful region and great for surfing. Because it's on the east coast, it gets a lot of good wave action. Very famous surf spot there called Cloud 9, which is a bit more advanced. There's also a nice one called Jumping Jacks around the corner, which is great for beginners. A great place to learn. I tried my best, but wasn't particularly good. I've seemed to be better underwater than trying to stand on it. But it is a really nice, beautiful destination. Lots of beautiful beaches. There's lots of lagoons to go explore, such as Scuba Lagoon in the photo here. Yeah, just a really nice place. You know, if you are with a family or with a partner that doesn't dive, you know, you can combine a dive destination area with Siargao, and I think that's very nice and complementary. The other one to mention is the island of Camiguin. So Camiguin is considered part of Mindanao, but actually you can access it from Bohol by taking a ferry from the south side of Bohol. It's, I believe, got the most number of volcanoes per square kilometer of any island in the world. So it's really fun for hiking and exploring. Lots of flora and fauna to kind of enjoy. And I was surprised by the quality of the diving around the island as well. Some really good macro, some very rare critters. I saw a lot of wonderpuss there, which was quite a surprise. And then there's some really interesting structural dive sites too. After the volcano, one of the volcanoes there blew out its side, you know, a huge amount of debris and rocks fell into the sea. So there's some really unique structural dive sites there with a lot of underwater volcanic rock. A lot of soft coral started growing, which is really pretty. But it is a bit out of the way. It is more for the adventurous traveler. There's not too much infrastructure there yet. But if you are on a Philippines adventure for a few weeks or months, very much worth it.